sorry about it.
Well,
You're good to go.
good evening. Another edition of, well, you can just edit all this in. Anyways, tonight we have a special guest. I'm pretty excited, actually. We have a member who had quite an extensive sailing trip this summer, and we all watched it via Facebook. And first of all, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Clayton Greenbaum. So I joined Jolly Roger Sailing Club last summer, and I sailed over 400 miles on the western end of Lake Erie, and then decided I wanted to one-up that. And this summer I sailed from Toledo to the Apostle Islands in Wisconsin.
Well, I always wanted to go there. Now, come on, tell me about the Apostle Islands. Was it worth it?
It was pretty cool. So one thing, when I was getting close to the Apostle Islands,
Yeah.
people started to warn me that if I sailed there, my boat would never leave the Apostle Islands. And I was actually trying to make it through the Apostle Islands to Duluth. And so their prophecy came true, at least for this year. And next year I'm going to go back and try to sail my boat out of the Apostle Islands. But it is so beautiful, and it's like a sailing paradise. There's just all these little islands and bays you can go to and stuff you can explore. I'm going to try to sail around a little bit, but then get out of there and see if I can break that prophecy.
Now, was this all by yourself?
Yeah, it was all single-handed until I got to the Apostle Islands, and then my girlfriend Andrea came up and joined me.
Oh, does
and
Andrea
sailed around
sail?
For a little bit. Yeah, she did this
Okay.
summer.
We should have
So-
put an extra mic on her.
Yeah, we get an extra mic.
Do you have an
on
extra
her.
mic?
If you talk close enough.
All right. Would you mind if we talk to you also?
Yeah, you have to lean over and like talk to his chest.
Anytime I can get a good woman to do that, we got it made. All right. Anyways, so you did sail with Clayton this summer.
Yes, I sailed with Clayton this summer. My name is Andrea Dorsten. I actually sailed on a little 22 when I was probably 12 years old.
Okay.
And then Clayton brought me back to sailing, so it's been great.
So you have little experience. This wasn't a first-time thing.
Not a first time thing.
Okay.
She probably has more experience than I do, honestly.
I don't know now. All those miles, buddy. So how long did it take you to get from here to the Apostle Islands?
So I think it was about 14 days of sailing. Some of those days were, the longest day was 43 hours long. But 14 of those days, and it was 40 days total. So the rest of the time I was kind of just in ports, messing around, exploring stuff, and then about 14 days on the water moving.
Now I'm going to get back to Andrea, right, in a second. But I want to ask you, there was some incident. You were talking about being on some break wall or something,
Yeah.
and you didn't have anywhere to be, or you couldn't go into port. And by the way, if you can tell, this is a live session. We have people coming in asking for pliers. We have people talking about phones. Anyways, but you said there were freighters coming in and out, and they were creating such big waves. They were smashing you against the wall. Or
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Go ahead.
Yeah. So it was, the town was called St. Clair Harbor, and there's a little road, and there's a bridge that goes over the river going up into the harbor. And the guide, from what I understood, said the bridge would operate like 24 hours. You just have to call in, and they would open the bridge. So I got there in the middle of the night. I don't know, it was like between 2 and 4 a.m., something like that. And nobody was there. So I kept hailing the bridge, and I went up to the bridge, and I couldn't see anybody there, and kind of looking around and yelling, and tied up to the wall, and like walked around and didn't see anybody.
Paced around.
Yeah. So I couldn't get in there, and I have an electric motor on my boat, so I had used up, because I was going up the St. Clair River, and
Which I hear
there's
has a little bit of current.
Yeah, a lot of current on the St. Clair. So I'd used up most of my battery getting to this bridge, and I'd kind of run out of options. So I didn't have enough power left in the batteries to keep motoring all night. But I also couldn't like anchor in the river because there was a lot of freighter traffic coming through. So
That would be terrifying.
yeah, so
They make big wakes.
yeah, they're not as big as you would think. Somehow they do something to mitigate the wakes, but when you're close to the break, like the river wall,
Yeah.
the wake comes in and bounces off the wall, and it kind of like doubles the wake. So the wake coming in from the freighter and then the wake reflecting off the wall add together and make the wake twice as big.
That does not sound good.
Yeah. So what I had to do was just tie up to the wall until I saw a freighter coming, and then I would have to wait until it was pretty close, and then untie from the wall and push off, and stay in the river while the wake was passing. And it would take 15 or 20 minutes for the wake to kind of die down, and then I would tie against the wall again.
Well, how did you get back to the wall without drifting off if the motor wasn't running?
So I had enough energy in my battery to like motor off of the wall and stay out in the river for a little bit and then tie back up to the wall, but I couldn't just stay in the river all night.
Okay, that sounds like quite an adventure.
It was an adventure. It was fun.
So did you get any damage on your boat from there?
No.
Hitting the wall and stuff?
No, the first time a freighter went by, I tried to see how long I could stay tied up to the wall, and the boat started kind of hitting the wall pretty hard, and you could hear the fiberglass kind of making some noise.
Yeah, that's not a good noise. Yeah.
Yeah, so then I kind of threw the lines off and pushed off the wall as hard as I could and tried to motor it away.
So you said last summer and this summer both you had extensive sailing. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I started sailing in 2020.
Oh my gosh, you just started and you took that long of a trip?
Yeah, so
I like you. You're a daredevil.
well, my goal is to take a bigger trip every year than I did the previous year, kind of. So in 2020, I just learned sailing because I'm into sustainable transportation and stuff, and I thought it'd be a pretty cool thing to do. And then in 21, I raced a little bit in Columbus on Allen Creek. And then in 22, I decided I wanted to buy a boat. So I found a boat up here at Jolly Roger, bought it from a guy, and then sailed around the western end of Lake Erie, did all those miles. Ended up getting the Decker Award, which I didn't know was a thing. Phil said, hey, submit your logbook, and I did. And then I won an award, so that was cool. And then this year, kind of tried to do something even bigger. So next year, I think I'll probably try to do like 2,000 miles. So this year I did a little over 1,000 getting up to the Apostle Islands.
So Andrea, you joined him in the Apostle Islands. Now, how did you get there? Oh, you can get that if you want.
I drove, actually. I was his transport back after he left the boat in the Apostle Islands.
Okay.
So it was actually my birthday trip. I spoiled my birthday. Clayton was going to come back and see me, and I said, no, I'd rather just go to the Apostle Islands because that's been on my list. So drove up, took a few days, sailed around, went through Devil's Island, and tooled around all of the Apostle Islands, loaded his bike, my bike, and everything into my tiny little car and brought him back home.
So how long did you sail around with him in the Apostle Islands?
I think it was 4 days. So yeah, a full 4 days just visiting each of the islands that we could.
Now, are there marinas there, or do you just anchor?
We did both. So there is a marina there. We met a lot of very cool people, some of who stay the full summer on the marina and go out sailing themselves. But we also had a few overnights where we just set anchor and slept under the stars.
That just sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I've read about the Apostle Islands. Go ahead.
Yeah, all the marinas are on the mainland of Wisconsin. There aren't any on the islands. So whenever you're out on the islands, sometimes there'll just be like a little pier, or sometimes there's not even that. You kind of just have to like throw out anchor.
So how far from the mainland are the islands?
They're pretty close. It's like a cluster of islands. I'm not sure how many there are, more than a dozen probably.
Yeah, I know there's a lot. I don't know.
But
okay.
the closest ones are only a couple hundred feet from the mainland.
Oh, my word.
And there's a regular ferry that goes from one that's populated and has a few restaurants on it and stuff. Most of the others don't have much more than a lighthouse and some trails.
So would you say all of them are within 10 miles of the mainland?
Yeah, I think so. The farthest ones out might be a little bit further than that. Yeah. But they're all clustered really close, and I think that's one of the things that makes it such a popular sailing destination. Inside the islands, you're pretty sheltered from the lake and stuff, and you have all these different places to go, all these little bays and things.
Now, are all of these in U.S. waters?
Yeah.
So can you go on all the islands, or are there any protected ones they don't allow you to step foot on?
No, we could go on each one of them. So the furthest one out is Devil's Island. It's called Devil's Island because the native people who lived there thought that when the wind would come through the sea caves, the sound of the wind sounded like devils or evil spirits.
So there's a lot of sea caves out there then to explore.
Yeah, a couple. I know on Devil's Island there are a lot of sea caves. I think on some of the other islands there might be a couple, but I think Devil's Island is the big place for the sea caves. Yeah.
Had you been to, and either one of you been there before?
No.
No, I had not.
Would you go back?
I'll go back next summer.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm hoping to.
Now you live down towards Columbus, right?
Yeah.
Now, are you down towards Columbus also?
No, I live in Toledo.
Okay, so you live in Toledo. Okay, all right. And this is the first time you've been sailing since you were a little kid, or had you been sailing all along?
No, I haven't been sailing all along. I do like to spend a lot of time out on Lake Erie, but it's mostly been kayaking. So.
Okay. That sounds like work.
Sounds like work, the
Paddling around,
kayaking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how was it going up the Detroit River? I heard that's kind of a nightmare. Is it?
I thought it was really cool going up the Detroit River. There were a few incidents. So when I first got into the river, it was dark, and there was a lot of seagrass in the river,
Okay.
or whatever you call it. And I was trying to stay out of the channel because I hadn't spent a lot of time around freighters, and I wasn't sure what the wake would be like, or like how it was navigating around them. So I tried to stay out of the main channel, and because of that, I got stuck in this seagrass, and it kept clogging up the prop on my motor.
All right.
So like every 5 minutes, I had to pop the motor out and get this seagrass out of it, and then put it back and keep going. There's quite a bit of current in the river too.
I heard somebody said something like 6 miles an hour. I mean, I don't know. That might be wrong, but
yeah, in the Detroit River, I don't think it's that fast. The fastest place is when you're going under the Blue Water Bridge, headed into Lake Huron. That's on the St. Clair River. There's a section there called the Rapids, and it's like a little over 1,000 feet, maybe 1,500 feet long, where the currents are like 6 to 8 miles an hour.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like rapids. The water is.
So do you have to use your sail and your motor to get through there, or what?
I think I had my main up. Yeah, it wasn't helping much because there wasn't much wind that day. But I had the motor going 100%, and everybody at Jolly Roger said stay on the Canadian side when you go through and stay really close to the shore. So I tried to follow that advice, and I was about like 50 feet away from the shore, and I wasn't making any progress. So I had to get even closer, and eventually I was about 10 feet away from the shore. And I was getting really scared because this water is kind of really rushing through there, and if you would lose control of the boat, you're going to get washed up onto the rocks on the shore or something. But it was fun because I was moving so slow. There's a park there on the Canadian side, and there are these Canadians in the park, and I was kind of having conversations with them. So they were sitting on benches, and I was moving so slowly that like I would wave to them, and they would wave back at me, and then we would start talking about stuff.
And you passed the same one 20 times, right? Forward, back, forward, back.
It felt like it, yeah.
So, wow, now this boat is 22 feet, right?
Yes, Catalina 22.
So earlier tonight, we had somebody talking about how they wouldn't go on the lake with a 22. Now, you just heard from Clayton that he went all the way to the Apostle Islands on a 22.
So I crossed all of Lake Huron and most of Lake Superior and a little part of Lake Erie. Yeah.
Now, I've heard a really nice place to go is Isle Royale. Is that near where you were at all? Do you know about that place?
Yeah, that was kind of on my list of places to visit this summer, but I didn't have enough time to get there. It's on the other side of the lake, so it's pretty close to Canada.
It's in Minnesota, right? Or
it is in Minnesota.
Okay.
It's really close to Canada.
That's on my bucket list. I heard that's
lake,
pretty remote and pretty cool.
It is. I've heard it's the most revisited national park, so the people that go there like to go back. But it's one of the least visited because it's so remote and so hard.
I heard they got wolves on there and moose on there.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be wolves, not wolves. But anyways, what?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've heard that same stuff too. Yeah.
But you can only get there by boat. If here doesn't know what Isle Royale, it's in Lake Superior, right?
Yes.
And I think it's about, if I remember reading, I think if you take a ferry, it's like 4 hours or something. I mean, it takes a while, even if you just take a ferry to get over there.
I think most of the ferries leave out of Copper Harbor in Michigan. Yeah.
Okay.
And they go across, and it's a pretty long stretch across the lake.
Okay.
There. It's not close. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff online and stuff about it, and my kids always wanted to go there and camp. Yeah. But when you start talking wild wolf and wild moose, I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I'd want to camp there.
So I hear all this stuff about moose or meese or whatever you call them, but I've never I've never seen one. And I don't believe they're real because I go to these places where there's supposed to be moose, like Maine or the Upper Peninsula.
And you never seen one?
I've never seen one, so I think everybody's just kind of like lying to me. It's like a conspiracy to sell T-shirts or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I saw one on my drive up to
I don't
see
believe
you.
it. I don't
Okay,
believe
here
it.
we go. We can't have couples fights
Wait,
here.
you saw one on the drive?
This is not Karamo or anything like that right now, okay? You saw one?
I saw one just on the very tip of Wisconsin, sometime in the middle of the night. My eyes might have been deceiving me, but pretty sure I saw one cross the street in front of me.
That was probably one of the Yoopers up there or something.
That was one of the animatronic moose that they have to make people believe that moose are real.
Ooh.
That's the locals. They plant these moose.
I never thought about that.
Tourists will see them and buy the T-shirts.
Oh, all right. Well, you never know. Anything else exciting you guys would like to tell us about this trip? I mean, I think it sounds fantastic. I appreciate you sharing with us about it. I mean, it makes me want to go and do this. But if I went, I'd have to go by myself because there's no way my wife's going on the boat for 14 days. Well, you didn't either.
No, only 4. And we didn't hate each other at the end of it. We still like each other.
If my wife listens to this, they still liked each other. Now, we went over to Cedar Point once, 8 hours, and that was enough. That was enough.
In the boat?
Yeah, it was enough.
8
It
hours
was
at
enough.
Cedar Point.
You
Yeah,
gotta
sounds
know
about
your
right.
limits.
Yeah, I agree, and I never do. That's the problem. Well, I want to thank both of you for talking to me tonight, and have a good time.
All right, Ted. Thank you
That
so
was
much.
awesome. Thanks.